Welcome to the second episode of the Anrew Reder Show. Today we're talking about the Humane Society of Midland County. Here in the studio today with me is Diane Lason, who has been employed there for the past
6 years.
6 years. Okay, I didn't actually know that. Okay, so how long has the Humane Society been in Midland?
Well, we have been, as the Humane Society that everyone knows now, in our building since 2011. Prior to that, it was an organization since the 60s, on and off. Group of warm-hearted individuals just wanting to make a change for animals in the county. But we've been in our building now since 2011, saving lives and being the only no-kill shelter in Midland County.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Is there any other shelters in Midland County?
I don't believe we have any other shelters in Midland County. I know that Michigan as a state has made a huge move towards being no-kill all the way around. We're not there quite yet, but the shelters in the area are making a huge effort to save more animals.
Yeah. So what's a proper way for someone to drop off an animal?
Sure. So if you find a stray animal, the best thing to do is to make sure that you're contacting your local agency. There are obviously some areas that border other counties. You want to contact all the shelters in the area that you live in. If you can't hang on to the animal, you always want to take it to a shelter. You want to contact animal control if you can't transport it. There is still an animal control officer here in Midland County that can be reached. We do have drop-off hours 6 days a week, and we just ask that you give us a call first. Give us a description. If you do decide you want to hang on to the animal, it's very important that you contact us with a full description. Have the animal checked for a microchip, because most animals that are lost, they are missing from a home, and we want to make sure we get them reunited. Now, if you have an animal you can't care for any longer, it's also important to do that the right way. Give us a call, let us know what's going on. Sometimes there's small behavioral issues that we can help people solve, and we want to help in any way we can. Even with medical things like spaying and neutering, we have programs to assist people with the cost of those surgeries, because I know it can get pricey, veterinary care can. Ultimately, we do accept drop-offs from Midland County residents. Monday through Friday and Saturday during specific hours. We just ask people to give us a call first, just to make sure that we can help them in any way we can, if there's any way they could keep their pet, or if we can help them cross-post the pet to find a home without having to come into the shelter. Because as hard as we try to make the shelter the happiest place it can be, and to help the animals in it and provide them proper care, it's still a stressful place for an animal that's used to a home.
Yeah. So someone's dropped off the animal and it's now in your care. What happens immediately after that?
Certainly. So when an animal comes into us, if it's a stray, the very first thing we do is check for a microchip. And just as a side note, we do offer microchipping to the public for $20. Microchipping is wonderful. Microchipping acts as a permanent form of identification. So if somebody loses their animal and it's chipped, we'll scan for a chip, we look up that number, we're able to find the owner right away. It's fantastic. So that's the first thing we do. Then we'll do a general overlook of the animal. We'll take a look at their eyes, ears, teeth, overall body condition. If it is a stray, we try to guesstimate an age as best we can, provide basic vetting, any kind of flea medications if necessary, any kind of deworming. And then the same thing goes for owner-surrendered pets. We want to make sure that their vetting is updated. That way they're as protected as possible in the shelter. And we get them settled with blankets and toys, comforts. And then while they're staying with us at the shelter, we make sure to take them out for walks every few hours for the dogs, and make sure the cats get some love too.
Yeah. Okay, so do you only accept dogs and cats?
We do accept other animals. Recently we had a few guinea pigs come in, and one of the guinea pigs that came in was pregnant. Oh. My boss actually fostered her, and she gave birth to 4 cute little babies. Those came back to the shelter for adoption. We've had rabbits, we've had hamsters, we've even had a pig and a goat before. So we do take other animals on a case-by-case basis. We try to help Midland County residents as much as we can in those scenarios. But most mostly it's dogs and cats.
Okay, so an exciting part of the Humane Society is adopting.
Yes.
So what are some criteria you have to meet for that?
Certainly. So we try to keep our adoptions as open as possible because it's very important to us to build that human-animal bond.
Yeah.
So when somebody comes in, if they're looking to adopt an animal, we do have an application, but we like to think of it more as a questionnaire. It has questions on it to make people think about what they would do in certain situations, like what would you do if your animal outlives you? Or what would you do if your animal ends up having some behavioral issues? That way, if they're not sure what they'd do in those situations, we can help them out as best we can. We can offer advice. The only thing that we do always have to look into is the living situation to make sure that the pet is allowed in the home. So if they are living in a rental, we do check with the landlord. But ultimately, like I said, we try to do as open adoptions as possible because if people are looking to get a pet, our pets are fixed, and we can provide that support system if there is any trouble after the adoption. And we just want to make sure to build the best bonds we can with the animals in our community.
Okay. So the shelter has about 9 part-time staff.
Yes.
And 1 full-time.
Yep, the full-time is our director, Beth. She's been there since 2011, since the very beginning, and she is wonderful. She's been in this field for over 20 years, and she has taken the shelter to a place that I think, 10 years ago, people would have never thought our local shelter could be. We are at a point where we're saving more animals than ever. Our placement rate, which is the percentage of animals that are saved that comes in, is close to, if not at 99%, and that's practically unheard of, still being an open intake shelter. And she's wonderful.
Yeah. So, but then you also have volunteers.
Yes. So volunteers are the heartbeat of our organization. For how many animals we handle, we can have up to, if not over, 100 animals in the shelter at any given time.
Oh, wow.
So our small staff, it's difficult to care for that many animals. Any given month, we're looking at having between 200 to 300 volunteers in our shelter. We've got 400 active volunteers in our database, and they give right around 800 to 1,000 hours a month. Without that help, it would be very difficult to exist. We always say that we can make do with anything because we've got a very, very strong staff and volunteer base, and we really do, push through all odds to make sure that the animals are cared for, especially in the summers when things get a little rough during kitten season. But we couldn't do what we do without our volunteer base. They are wonderful.
Okay, so if someone wanted to volunteer, who would they contact?
That would be me. I'm our volunteer and foster coordinator. When somebody wants to volunteer, we have them contact the shelter and sign up for one of our orientations, which are our training sessions.
Okay.
They usually last between 45 minutes to an hour and are held on Thursdays and Sundays. We have people give us a call. We can usually get them in within the same week. Volunteers that want to come in that are 16 years or older can volunteer independently, and anyone between 10 to 15 can come in with a parent or guardian. We have some parent youth teams that come in that really enjoy it. We have some members of Big Brothers and Big Sisters that'll come in, Bigs and Littles that'll come in. And then we have lots of individuals that just do it in their free time, as well as, I know a lot of high schools require community service hours. We have volunteers that'll come in to meet those goals. We're happy to have help, honestly. Happy to see new faces in the shelter and always looking for new volunteers.
What ages can you be to volunteer?
So anywhere between 10 and any age, really.
Right.
We have a volunteer right now that is a World War II vet, and he comes in and helps us with our dishes. He is phenomenal. We absolutely adore him. So really, you can be any age to volunteer, as long as you're over 10, of course. Right. But we've had individuals that, have little kids that they just want to come in and see the cats. You can come in and see the cats. We're open Monday through Friday between noon and 7, Saturdays 11 till 4, and anyone is welcome to come in and see our animals. If you want to volunteer, you have to be a little older because you're doing, actual work around the shelter, but we always want to encourage, like I said, that human-animal bond. It's super important.
Yeah. Okay, so what jobs do the volunteers do?
Sure. So one of our biggest tasks for volunteers is dog walking. Like I said, we walk our dogs between every 2 and 3 hours. That is quite the task. If you have, sometimes we can have upwards of 30 dogs in the shelter. That's a big task.
Yeah.
So we have dog walkers. We have folks that'll come in the mornings and throughout the day to help us clean cat cages and socialize the cats to make sure they're getting proper attention. And then we'll also have people that'll come in with housekeeping and help with housekeeping rather. Dishes, laundry, general care of the shelter. They're all pieces of the puzzle that make everything work. And
Yeah.
I can't stress enough that we could not do what we do without our volunteers. Our volunteers are wonderful.
All right. So in the 6 years you've worked there, how has the Humane Society affected you?
I think about that a lot. Ultimately, what I have is not just a job, it's more so a calling. I've been involved in animal welfare for 10 years, and it has its days, it has its moments, and sometimes it's tougher than others because you deal with a lot of emotional things. But ultimately, I love what I do. I love being able to help animals and humans, and I don't think I would change a thing.
Yeah.
It's definitely sometimes I feel like it's made me a little bit rough around the edges because sometimes some days can be very challenging. We'll do intake days. It's been a while since we've had one of these, but around the time that I started, we'd take in 35 cats in a day, and it's stressful, but ultimately, it's worth it in the end because what I do is meaningful and impactful, and I love being able to help people and help animals.
Yeah, anything that's worth doing isn't going to be easy.
True. Very true.
Well, I think that's all the time we have for today. Thank you for being here with us, Diane.
Yes, thank you for having me. I love talking about the shelter, especially, anytime I have an opportunity to tell people what we do and get people in our doors, either to adopt, to volunteer, to foster. We have foster volunteers. I'm just happy to spread the word.
Well, thank you. The Anrew Reder Show is a show focused on exploring Midland and its community leaders. Thank you for watching.